Our guest is someone whom I've known for quite a while, and I wanted to share a little bit about how I know her. First of all, she's the author of Money Keys, and it's a wonderful book, and it's in our bookstore. There will be more available. She is an internationally renowned speaker. When I was last in Denver going to Mile High Church, there Dr. Roger Teal was advertising she was coming up doing something there at the Mile High Church, which is this huge, even bigger than our new home. But the thing I really want to share with you, and I can do this now because neither one of us are on this committee anymore. There is a committee in Centers for Spiritual Living that's called the Tithe Committee. And it's a secret committee. Not secret, but quiet. We don't talk about it. And we don't talk about it because we don't want people to ask for something. We want simply to identify, let Spirit identify who the people are that we as an organization ought to be giving back to through our tithes. And here's the greatest part of all. We never knew how much those tithes were. Never knew. In fact, we still don't know unless someone comes up to us and says, did you know the organization tithed to me $1,000? We go, isn't that great? Isn't that great? And every single meeting was a spiritual practice. It was so beautiful. We went into a visioning. Usually we would ask Reverend Karen to lead it because she's so good at it. We'd go into a visioning and ask to be guided. That we would be guided to absolutely the right and perfect people to receive these tithes. And if it was more than 1 week, how many weeks, etc. And we were always guided. It was the most amazing committee to be on. We did this over the telephone. I was on the committee for, I think, 2 years, and I know Reverend Karen was on for much longer than that. She is so grounded in these principles and always starts from within and then comes out into the outer. So here, and she will be presenting a workshop this afternoon at 1 o'clock, and once you hear her, I know you're going to want to intend to either come back or stay for that. But that's all I need to say. Speaking on expanding the consciousness, please welcome Reverend Karen Russo.
What a wonderful introduction. You know, that is such a special and sweet thing, serving on this tithe committee. It was one of those things where the luxury was spiritual practice, and then we also got to check off our lists, like being of service to the to the community and being on a committee and all of that. But it was such a beautiful experience and really wonderful to share with you. Center for Spiritual Living Capistrano Valley, you're looking good. You are looking good. So I'm blessed. I came up in Science of Mind in Los Angeles at the Agape Center, so I know Gino from back before the beginning. And we both just said to each other this morning, wow, you know, we think you all really have set a level of consciousness in terms of beauty, connection, relatedness, and intention. So good for you. And, and I'm blessed today to be here, and we're going to have some slides. I think Mary and I worked together on this morning to talk a little bit more about how to connect the idea of an expanded consciousness to how we are with our money. So you all are up for that, yes? Yes, okay. So this idea about expanding consciousness. So there's a bit of a paradox. So you all know from our Science of Mind and Spirit teaching, the idea that you're whole, perfect, and complete. That you're already cooked, you're already there, you know, you're made in the image and likeness of the divine, so therefore you're filled with divine attributes. And yet, it's a bit paradoxical, isn't it? And yet, because we have free choice, we are ever expanding. This is a progressive universe. There's always more of an infinite to be revealed. And so the always more to be revealed is why we have adventures. Adventures in faith, adventures in health, adventures, and joy. The reason that we're here in this dimension is for us to expand and express the divinity that we are through this human condition. Now, it's important these days to be able to apply this to our financial lives. And this is because the world sometimes feels like this. Do you catch this? The world tightening its belt, yeah? So if you are in any kind of conversation in today's world, whether it's a government conversation or an economic conversation, a family conversation, a business conversation, it's hard to avoid the conversation that says, we need to recede. It's a time of crisis. There's a lot of challenges. And in factual matter, there's a lot of evidence we could point to that would say it is a time of recession or a time of receding. But what I would say to you is, it's actually a great call for expansion. That these things that we see out in the world that show us a sense of being diminished are a call for us to be greater. Yes? Yeah. That's why we're here. So our conversation is going to include, what is money? Who are you? And what's the God idea? So I want to give you an opportunity to experience how you relate to money and show you how powerful you are when it comes to thinking about what money is. I also want to give you a fresh way to think about how magnificent you are and how to use your own spiritual truth to be an inspiration around how you relate to money. And then finally, I really want to talk about, like, what's the essential spiritual idea of our abundance, of our prosperity. So that's where we're headed. And we're going to begin with money. And you'll see that I have some symbols here that represent different ways that money is expressed. And we have symbols of different currencies. And one of the ones that's included up there, people will see CHF, that stands for the Swiss franc. This summer I was blessed to be with your own Reverend Patty Mercado in a wonderful event in Switzerland. So I got to understand all about the Swiss franc and also got to understand in that culture how they relate to the idea of spiritual prosperity connected to money. It was an interesting time. A little aside, there was a couple of people from Finland. The lady came to me afterwards and she said, boy, I liked you more than when I heard you a year and a half ago. And what she meant was a year and a half ago, she could not even take hearing the idea of spirituality being connected to money. We're very blessed in many ways in North America and First World, which is we've at least all been exposed to the idea that we can spiritualize any aspect of our lives. So we're going to keep going deeper with that. So what is money? I know that this is a group that's willing to go on a bit of an adventure. I want to prove to you that your consciousness is more powerful than money. Are you willing to do that? Yeah. All right. We're going to do a reflection. What I'd like you to do is find something physical that you can put your hands on that represents your money life. So go ahead and grab, if it is your wallet or your purse, you could put your hand on that generous, gorgeous lover that you came with that helps to support and supply your family life. Now, sir, that's your wallet, not your neighbor's. Go ahead and grab something that represents your money life. I have this is my United Mileage Plus visa. I travel a lot. I love her. All right. So you've got something that represents your money life. So what I want you to do is we're going to do a little bit of two reflections. And so if you kind of half close your eyes, you've got that kinesthetic connection, I'd like you to consider your current financial circumstances. So go ahead and allow yourself to think about the current facts of your money life. So it could be the income that comes from the job or the portfolio. It could be family income from a partner or a spouse. It could be the current amount that your real estate is worth or not worth. It could be obligations that you have. It could be any one of the factors or numbers of your financial life. Just make a mental and emotional and spiritual connection to the facts. Now, two reflections. And give yourself permission to do both of these. The first one, I'd like you to compare your current financial situation to someone who you think is doing better than you. So it could be you compare yourself to the family down the block that appears to have more in some way in their home or their cars, or what they're doing with their kids, or where they're going with their life. Or it could be someone in the news who you think is doing better, or someone who's a peer in the businesses that you're in. Allow yourself to compare to someone who you think is better. And I'm going to ask you to be a little courageous. Let's have people just call out the thought or the feeling, a word or a phrase that comes when you make that comparison.
Little.
Little. Not enough. Less. Possible. There's no right or wrong here. Thank you. We'll just call out one or two more.
Materialistic.
Materialistic.
Joy.
Joy.
Unlimited.
Unlimited.
Fortunate.
Fortunate.
Happy.
So not a right or a wrong, but that was reflection number one. Now kind of shake that off, and you still have your attention on yourself. You're still holding on to the thing that represents your financial life. And unless you have a portfolio with a stock that is changing every 15 seconds, it probably hasn't changed much, right? But your current situation, so your situation's still the same. In reflection number two, I'd like you to compare your situation to someone who you think is worse off than you. And so this could be, again, neighbor, family, peer, colleague. It could be someone that you know personally, or it could be, there's about 7 billion people on planet Earth. About 1 billion people tonight, it's going to be, will there be clean water? Will we find a safe place to sleep? Like, that's really the conversation for many people on this planet. So when you do that comparison, again, no right or wrong answer, let's just call out what are the thoughts or feelings that come. Lucky, less, compassion, grateful, sad. We should do something. Aware. All right, good. Shake that off, and you can put your money substance back. And so, sir, that's in your wallet, not your neighbor's. All right. And what we've done here is we've given you a chance. What did you notice? Your situation didn't change, but for almost everybody, there's always some way that your point of view shifts, yes? And it happens in just a moment or two, just by the direction of our thought, emotion, and attention. So here's your proof, right? Money. What if money was just a neutral substance? What if these symbols that we see on screens or on pieces of paper or on pieces of metal, what if these things were literally just symbols of supply and transaction and exchange? If money is neutral, it's the meaning we make about money that is powerful. And I contend that you and I are the meaning makers. Money is neutral. Meaning about money is very powerful, and you and I are the meaning makers. And just having that awareness, in many ways, that can kind of perk you up to realize, you know what? It's because sometimes it's subtle. There's subtle ways that we let our opinions about our financial situation either diminish us or to put us in a lot of courage. And just by having a more empowered relationship with money, we start to have a more empowered relationship with how we use it in our lives. Yes? Yes. All right. Thank you all for doing that. Now, the next thing I promised I would talk about is who are you? And I like the image of this individual. This represents to me, this is someone who knows their oneness with the divine. So this is something that, your spiritual director and your practitioners and your leaders here in your community are often sharing with you the truth that you're made in the image and likeness of God, that who you are essentially is spiritual. And knowing that is such a, it's such a privilege in many ways to know it. It's really powerful when you practice it. And I listened to the sermon from last week, and I just love that you said, am I living in principle? Like do you all realize how blessed you are with Dr. Heather? Am I right? Okay, yeah, okay. So one of the things I really caught, and it just was very beautiful because obviously there's a lot happening with like the new plays, and I heard about the fire alarms and the other things, and so there's a lot happening. and your spiritual director is asking you the most important question that really, in many ways, is such an honor for you to be asked one another. Am I living in principle? Because the principle's true. Where we have choice is, are we living in it or not? Now, when it comes to money, it's an interesting thing. You all are familiar with the idea of what's called a mental equivalent. It's a science of mind idea. Dr. Ernest Holmes talked about when we pray affirmatively, we are always praying from the highest level or awareness or blueprint or mental equivalent of the thing that we desire. So one individual might pray for divine right employment at a perfect salary, and that individual who had a six-figure history might manifest their divine right employment at a six-figure level. But another individual maybe had a seven-figure history, and their prayer manifests as a seven-figure position or situation. Now, it's not, I don't want to make that seem too simplistic, but that's the idea, that we manifest at the level of our consciousness. And consciousness is the sum total of what we think, what we feel, what we say, and the trend and the pattern of our beliefs. So one of the things I recommend for people, and I've been traveling around the world for over 5 years with this particular message about spiritual money mastery, and I've worked with thousands of beautiful, good-looking, spiritually refined people just like you. And what I've noticed is that for many people, if there's any sense of challenge around money, one of the biggest blessings is to be able to use our own strengths as a mental equivalent. And here's what I mean. Right now, every single one of you, every single one of us has some area of the material living where we know the divine is there. So it might be that we can look at a beautiful piece of art and just feel like this is the creativity of the divine revealed in art. Or we look into the eyes of a child and we really can see this is the divine in expression. Others will feel it with their animal companions. Some people have it around the food and the human body, having this be a sacred instrument of expression. Wherever you can know that the divine is present and then expressed through the material, look, if you can do it with your food, you can do it with your money. If you can do it with the art, you can do it with your money. If you can do it with the beloved, you can do it with your money. If you've ever surrendered and had the experience of increase coming from letting go of old ideas, you can do it with your money. And that idea, benchmark yourself, use your own life as a mental equivalent, for many people is very empowering. Because sometimes there's this little conversation that goes like, oh, I'm a spiritual person, therefore I have problems with money. Please! Or, oh, I am, an artist, therefore problems with money. Oh, I am divorced, therefore problems with... I want to take that therefore out and instead say, here's this experience I've had, and I'm so joyful because I can manifest the divine through my money. Are you with me on that? Yes. Beautiful. Well, that's what's true about you. And so if money's neutral, and you're already lifting yourself up by the awareness that there's a part of your life where you're already experiencing the divine, if you can do it there, you can do it with your money, I want to remind us of what I call the God idea about spirituality and money coming together. And I'm using this as our science of mind teaching symbol, the individual who's taking the divine idea, acted upon by law, manifest, right? You see, there's a big difference between spiritual source and material channel. And for many people, where they get really messed up around money is confusing the two. So spiritual source is the invisible, eternal, ever-present, unconditional, affluent, intelligent, all-powerful nature of the divine. Spiritual source never leaves us. It's eternally there. It's always creating. Now, material channels are the things of this world. They are the fabulous real estate portfolio, the wonderful downline, the great, generous, good-looking lover, the fantastic portfolio, the patent on this, the hit record, the this thing, the Debt's shoes, if you have not seen them, trust me, material channel, but fabulous, right? These material channels, look, love them. That's what we're here for. You know, that's what, I mean, we're here to express in the material. But here's the thing. When people get mixed up and look for their security in a material channel, they will always feel afraid. And that is the foundation of a lot of the worry and upset about money, is that people are misguided in thinking their security comes from a material channel. So there's a holding on to that material channel, which really is misguided. And I will tell you, when you really have that clear, like I'm so grateful for the spiritual source, and I honor and respect, and I'm a good steward of the material channel, but I never let myself think that this is my source. There's something in that. That's how you'll always be peaceful and inspired. The other thing is, that's really the essence of where spiritual giving and tithing comes from. It really comes from the, you know, I give thanks. I give thanks for the 100% that comes to me because I recognize it comes from an infinite, eternal, ever-giving spiritual source. And, you know, when the ancients tithe, it came from this idea of leaving behind crop in the field to nourish the soil, which I love that. It's Reverend Diane Harmony who I first heard that from. I give thanks for the 100% and I leave 10% behind with the places, institutions, people, causes that spiritually inspire me. And that idea is like such a way to really honor and welcome the spiritual source. All right. So this is your gift this morning, is we've got, you know, these ideas coming together of the money as a neutral symbol, like language or technology. And when you know that, you have a sense of power. The reminder of who you are, that you're eternally valuable, that you're one with the spiritual source, and the anchoring that, you know, God's Spirit is the source of all. So that is the good news. Now, I do have a little bit of bad news, but this is a pretty mature group. Which would you prefer to hear first? More good news or a little bad news? What? More good. All right, so here's the thing. Here's the good news. It is entirely possible for you to absolutely manifest even more of this idea of your oneness with the divine through your financial experience. You absolutely can do this. But there is some bad news that goes along with it. Do you want to know what that bad news is? Yes. Okay. Here's the bad news, is that most people, once they hear a message like this, you know, it's hard to argue with, particularly for the kind of, you know, group that you are. So they'll hear it and they get it. But for many people, if you don't deliberately involve yourself in developing 3 aspects of your financial life, most people, even if they've heard this stuff, will just replicate the financial experiences of their past. Now that might not be bad. I mean, if it's working for you, lean in and keep going. But I kind of catch here, not so much that people have problems to be solved, but that you all are here for like living the biggest life and making a big contribution and really having all the chapters and seasons of your life really be powerful. And so there's a desire for the ever expanding. So that the bad news is you'll probably have to, if you want to have a greater expression, you're going to have to develop yourself more. But the good news is you can't do it. So I'm just going to show you a thing that I call the money map, which is a tool for how, and this is what we'll work with in the workshop this afternoon. It's a tool for putting your entire financial life in one place. You see, what happens is people don't realize you've got to work the spirituality about money, as well as your beliefs about money, as well as your habits about money. And that's the kind of, specificity that we'll work with this afternoon. And part of why I say, bad news makes it seem a little harsh, beautiful morning like this. I'll say it this way. The reason you have adventures in faith and spiritual circles and messages and affirmations and testimonies, the reason all of this is happening is you want to develop yourself by being involved in the conversations that aren't about the squeezing, but are about the expansion. So you're already doing this by being here, by being involved. And I would say, continue your involvement. All right. When we do this individually, what happens is, this is an affirmation that we use with a lot of the people who work with me and work with the Money Keys message. It's a personal affirmation. I love and respect myself enough to live a financially prosperous and responsible life. It's a beautiful personal affirmation. It came from a gentleman in one of our early groups, and he really made the connection between being an excellent spiritual giver and receiver with his money with self-love and how important that is for an individual. But here's what I really know and what I want to leave you with, is that when we do well individually with our spirituality and our money, it's not just a for us thing. You see, when we do well individually, because we are all connected, so, you know, we are in many ways privileged first world people who have, you know, beauty and art around us and access to so much. It's like for us to get our stuff even that much more high vibration, because we're connected to all, we help lift the world. And that's what I want to say, and I think it's beautiful because you said this already this morning, Dr. Heather, is that, you know, people individually maximizing their spiritual expression are a blessing to us all. So I so appreciate being with you. Thank you so much, and namaste.
Wow, fabulous. Come on back this afternoon for the second part.